Were you ever advised that it is bad to mix emotions with your business? Well, that is a very bad advice. Did you know that EQ matters much, much more than IQ? To get a better understanding of what EQ is actually, I have invited Mucha Mlingo. Mucha Mlingo is a certified EQ practitioner, an international keynote speaker, a master facilitator and moderator, and a curriculum development expert. She is a self-professed emotional intelligence fanatic. Mucha considers herself on a mission to transform Africa. Mucha believes that individuals, community, and organization can leverage the scientifically based skill of emotional intelligence to increase effectiveness, improve well-being, and strengthen relationship and improve quality of life. Mucha is passionate about empowering people to take ownership of a positive future. She is the founder and lead Changemaker at PTS Africa, a boutique consultancy firm dedicated to the development of people. She has a background in financial services with over 10-year financial advisory and client development experience in the UK. Mucha has a postgraduate diploma in organizational psychology from the University of London. She has a certificate in financial planning and a certificate in securities. Here is Mucha Mlingo for you. Okay, emotional intelligence is actually it's something I had not heard of, let's say 5 years ago, or is it a new discipline? What is it actually?
Emotional intelligence is really about understanding your own emotions and the emotions of others, and then utilizing emotional data to make decisions. And it's really based on the premise that emotions drive behavior.
Yes.
And it's not really a new thing. If you actually, track back even from biblical times, there are verses in the Bible that allude to the same principles of emotional intelligence. I think emotional intelligence was brought to prominence by Daniel Goleman when he wrote his book about emotional intelligence and why it can matter more than IQ, but it existed before that.
I guess it is the formulation, the calling it of emotional intelligence. Yes.
Yeah, very true, very true.
You say that it is actually the act of being aware of our emotions and applying them to our lives. How can that work in business? Because there is this French saying that you shouldn't, pas de sentiment dans les affaires. Don't take business decisions based on emotions, something like that. How does it help in business?
Well, what we know from research is that individuals who are high in emotional intelligence are more successful. And why that is the case is because ultimately our emotions drive our behavior. We like to think of ourselves as rational beings, but at our core, we are emotional. We make decisions impacted by our emotions. And so emotional intelligence is about paying attention to your emotions and then ensuring that the decision you make is not just purely emotional. It is a combination of emotional and rational, that you're using both the emotional part of the brain and the rational part of the brain as you make the choices that you make. So ultimately, yes, it's about understanding that in business, you can't just make decisions that are emotional. But here's the thing, we may not realize we're doing it, but often that is what we do. Emotional intelligence is about paying attention to your emotions. It's also about paying attention to the emotions of others. and being able to understand what is driving them. And if you think about it, that's something that will make you successful in business. Being able to pick up on the emotions of your team members, being able to pick up on the emotions of your customers, and understand how their emotions are impacting them and impacting their behavior. That ability is something that is integral to the success of any person in business.
What advice would you give you? Just one, eh? What one single advice would you give to someone who is starting in business or whose business is in the first stages on how to use emotional intelligence to propel their business forward?
I think for me, the advice I would give someone who's starting in business is to develop self-awareness. So emotional intelligence is about being aware of your emotions, understanding what those emotions are driving you to do. So that's self-awareness. Emotional intelligence is then using that information intentionally. So that means responding to the circumstances of life rather than reacting, to the circumstances of business rather than reacting, which is what our default is. So to start all of that off, to be more intentional in your choices, to respond to the circumstances and challenges of life, you must start by being aware of what your emotions are and how those emotions are impacting the choices that you're making. So the advice I would give anyone in business is to actually develop the art of self-awareness. Knowing yourself is a superpower. It's one of the most crucial skills for success because you then understand what your emotions are pushing you to do, what your default actions are, what your triggers are, right? And when you are aware of this information, you can then make different choices. You cannot navigate, you cannot utilize what you don't know. And so for me, I think I would encourage anyone in business to really develop greater self-awareness.
Don't you feel like you want to hear even more? Well, head straight away to topachievers.co.ke, join the community, and attend the masterclass that Mucha has prepared for you. I'm looking forward to interacting you within Top Achievers Network community.